Okay, and then I want to ask Etienne Amic to come up. And you have your microphone, Etienne, and you have the hopper. Okay, so Vakt, V-A-K-T.io is really, one of the first blockchain where hundreds and hundreds of millions of dollars is basically passing through. It's really a post-settlement solution, and it's one of the examples which made me very excited as a DLT solution that we're passing beyond the hype and going into production. So this is the talk I really want to be hearing all about, because we're not talking about proof of concept, we're really talking about going. Is your slide working?
I do hope so.
Yes?
No?
Yeah? Oh yeah, you have to do this thing here, the big one, yeah.
That's great.
And then the next one.
Great.
Okay.
Good morning, everyone.
Thank you very much. Give him a big hand.
So good morning, everyone. I'm Etienne Amic. I'm the CEO of Vakt, and I'm going to talk to you about energy trading. So I must confess, I'm a reformed energy trader. I traded energy for about 20 years. And I saw, my own history, I really saw over the past 10 years in particular, a complete change of what is going on in commodity trading. When I started as a trader, IT were really the guys that you call when you wanted to fix your computer. So you are usually shouting at them, very unhappy because you needed to trade and something was not working. And over the past 10 years, things have really changed. I started to see that when I was at JP Morgan, and we created from scratch a business which was a physical energy prime brokerage. And in about the space of 3 years, between 2011 and 2014, we became the biggest energy broker in Europe. And then we were sold by JP Morgan, and I moved to a private company called Mercuria, and we had some wind and solar assets to manage. And I also saw a very deep transformation there, where originally it was done by about 10 real-time power traders, and very quickly it was all algorithms. Everything was computed by machines, trading by machines, and there was almost no human interventions. The humans were just watching the computer trade and optimize the pools of wind and solar assets in Germany in real time. So when I was called to be the CEO of Vakt, I was excited because I thought, okay, now we're going to see what's happening in the physical commodity industry, which is highly decentralized and mainly in oil. And so Vakt was created at the end of 2017 and is really with all the shareholders that you can see there. So it started with some of the oil majors, so BP, Shell, Equinor, some of the major banks in the space, ABN AMRO, of course, Société Générale, ING, and some of the independent traders like Mercuria and Gunvor, for example, or Corp. And the idea really was to say we have a very inefficient back end for the physical trading, and the reason why it's very inefficient, it's highly decentralized. So you've got terminal involved, you've got inspectors involved, you've got port agents, you've got the traders themselves, the ship owners, the trading banks, the trade finance banks. And so you have a lot of paper circulating between all these players. And the reason why that's necessary is because every one of these constituents, everyone, bring a little bit of value to a given transaction and allows the oil to flow from one place to the other. So we created that platform with really three main things in mind. Cybersecurity is very important. We're not Uber for physical energy trading. That's not what the traders want. The traders do not want the transactions to be intermediated by a platform. What they want is to go on and do the transaction between themselves, but they want a digital backbone where the data effectively materializing that transaction can flow between themselves very easily and in a very secure way. So I think cybersecurity, privacy are very important things. And then the second thing that they want is that once they've done a transaction between themselves, usually they need finance, and they want that to happen much faster. And that's the second piece of the platform where we actually interfaced with our partner Comgo, and transactions get sent from Vakt, for the blockchain of Vakt to the blockchain of Comgo, and there's a very seamless interface, and then they get finance in a few minutes. And I think that's another very important kind of change in the industry. And finally, we want efficiency. When you want to move oil around the world, you need to talk to all these constituents, the terminals, the ship owners and everything. And so you got a lot of phone calls, a lot of emails. It is estimated in a company like BP, you've got 4 million emails just to administer per year, just to administer the normal kind of physical oil trading. That's quite a lot of emails and you need to not miss any one of them. Otherwise, something bad is going to happen to your transactions. And given the value of the underlying physical commodity, oil, you're likely to lose $1 million very quickly if you make a mistake. So efficiency, while respecting safety, I think is extremely important for the industry. So what do? Is that we do all these things. We do not initiate the trade. I think that's very important. We're not an execution platform. We're after that, but we confirm transactions, and then we administer, to summarize that slide, we really administer the logistical aspects of the transactions. So for example, we allow terminals to connect to us, or we allow inspectors to connect to us, and they exchange data between themselves. If an inspector has inspected the tank, for example, that information needs to flow to the buyer if a barge has been loaded with the oil which was in that tank. And so we allow all this information to flow between the parties, and that's really what we do. That's the core of our mission. One very important thing is that this is not a kind of dream. This is not a proof of concept, a proof of value. This thing is in production. The first market that we launched is the North Sea crude oil market. That's a small market for oil, only $250 billion per year. It's about 6,000 transactions, and you only have 20 very large traders, and that's the reason why we chose that market, is that you can talk to everybody. Everybody knows each other. And it's quite easy to start with that because it's a relatively small ecosystem. You've got 5 terminals only in the North Sea, so you know everybody by name. It's relatively easy. And then the next market we're going to, I'll explain, are barges in Amsterdam, Rotterdam, and Antwerp. And that's about 100 traders, and that's about 60,000 transactions per year. So everything is about 10 times the number of people in the North Sea. So I think what is very important to understand is that the reason why blockchain is successful in that industry is that it's a decentralized technology for a decentralized trading industry. And I think what this slide is trying to illustrate is just that. So VACT is in the middle, but really we've got a number of partners. The traders are partners, and you need to have a critical mass of traders so that they can confirm the transaction between themselves. I think that's very important. It is better to have only one narrow market and 80% market share than having 5% market share across the global market. Because if you only have 5% market share, when a trader wants to confirm a trade with another trader, they're not going to find them statistically 95% of the time. If, on the other hand, you've got a narrow market, North Sea crude, and you've got 80% market share, they're going to find the counterpart on the platform 80% of the time. So I think that's very important. It's better to be narrow and deep rather than very shallow and wide. I think that's very important in trading. But our clients are also the brokers because they facilitate the trade at the execution level, the ship owners because they need to signal to the traders where the ship is, and that they've already loaded the oil and so on and so forth. The banks are very important. You need the financing. The terminals, they certify the quantity which has been loaded on the ship, on the vessel. So for example, if you're in Rotterdam, the terminal is the one who is going to say, hey traders, you thought you had nominally transacted 5,000 tons, but really I managed to load 4,998, and so you need to invoice on that exact quantity and not on 5,000 tons. And so, finally, I can't read. Whatever. These are the important kind of constituencies. And so we have modules to address the interaction between each one of them. So for example, vBlock is what allows the broker to talk to the traders. vConfirm it is the module that allows the two traders to confirm transactions between themselves. vTrack is the part between the terminals, the traders, and the port agents. And so vInspect is here to intermediate between the traders and the inspectors when the traders send the inspectors to inspect the oil on the ship or in a tank. Our goal is obviously nothing short of world domination, as you would expect. And so we started with the North Sea market. We're now rolling at the beginning of Q3 into the refined products market for barges. And then our goal is really very simple. We're spotting where are the large pools of transactions and where we are likely to have a high market share. And we're going there and we're rolling out, each market after market. And the idea is to have what is called, for multi-sided platform, the ignition, i.e. a very high market share very quickly. So to give you an idea, in the North Sea market, we started, officially, we launched the project at the end of February 2018. And we now have 80% of the parcels, which are traded, 80% of physical cargoes. We have about 60% of the traders on the platform and 40% of the transactions. And our goal is really to go to 80, 90% for these three indicators very quickly. And to give you an idea of how fast that has gone, the company was created at the end of 2017. The first line of code was written in May 2018. The platform was launched privately among the shareholders, the large traders, the banks, at the end of November 2018. The first LC financed on Comgo was on the 21st of December 2018. We launched to the open market at the end of February 2019, and we're now in May, and we got about 80% market share. And so our goal is to do that market after market and to go very fast. And to cover the whole world in about 3-4 years, depending on, it's always a little bit more complex than one thing. This is a very large effort. We need to scale. We're about 100. My own intuition is that we need to at least to multiply our size by 3, 4, or 5 to become relevant to our clients, because they are very large traders. They operate all over the world, and these are the markets where, there is the most volume. And to become relevant to them, we need to cover all these markets pretty quickly. So that implies a technology effort, which is very significant. Also, another thing to understand, which is very important, is that blockchain is super important, but it's only an enabler. It only represents 20-25% of our technology stack. And the 80% on top of it is really to capture the complexity of physical oil trading. That's the business logic. And I think that's very important to understand is that if you want to be relevant to the real world and use blockchain to transform the world, you need to replicate a lot of the complexity which is in the world in software. And to some extent, that has nothing to do with blockchain. But that's really what will potentialize blockchain to really be efficient and really kind of provide services to the whole community. You need to replicate what is done by humans, today, and you need to put that in software, and then that layer of software needs to talk to the blockchain, write to the blockchain, get from the blockchain, and I think that's very important. So the blockchain is the core tenet of what we do, but really we spend a lot more time on non-blockchain things, and I think that's very important. I'm deeply convinced, coming obviously from the industry, that's one of the central messages, is that you need really to apply the blockchain to the problems to the day-to-day problems that people are facing. That's really what I wanted to say today.
We have a lot of questions for you.
Okay.
How is the governance organized? How is the governance of the FACT organized?
So it's a for-profit company, and we've got a board and partners on the board. Obviously, we have a number of traders now who have signed up to the platform who are not shareholders, and so they sign a license agreement with us, and they've got their own node, and they can write on the blockchain through their nodes. Mm-hmm. And obviously, it's a permission system. It's not a public blockchain because that wouldn't be well adapted to that world where we need KYC, AML, and all sort of procedures that wouldn't, not everybody can come up and say, hey, I want to trade, or it doesn't work that way.
No, I understand. What is the connection to the financial settlement?
So today we are stopping at invoicing data, so we get the actual quantities and we get the prices. And the prices in oil are a little bit more complex than just a number. They tend to be formulas. Yeah. And we submit that to our clients, and then we leave it to them to settle. That may change in future, but we have a lot to do with what we have in the table, so we're not going to go into settlement just yet because some
fine.
people do it very well, and that's not what we do.
No, we have a bunch of questions, so quick answers. What technology are you using?
We're based on JP Morgan's Quorum.
Okay. The guy who really hated cryptocurrencies the
Yes.
most? Yes, okay, very good.
They're doing a good job, actually.
Huh? They're doing a very good job.
Yeah, they're doing a good job.
When they know how to make money out of it, they're just the experts saying thing. Then the question 11 is, why is blockchain used for solution? What does it bring to the table that other tech cannot?
I think
Why not use your
Yeah.
own little database and you organize everything?
I think the most important is that there's a long history in physical energy trading where some platforms set up, like the exchanges, for example, they allow the trading of financial oil derivatives, and then they own the data and they sell it. And that, I think, for the physical traders is uncomfortable, to say the least. So I think the fact that everything is private between the parties is super important. A lot of the bilateral contracts between a trader and their inspection company, between a trader and their port agent, are private contracts which really build the competitive edge of the different physical traders. They don't want that to be available even to us, VACT, so we don't see anything of what they do, and I think that's very important to them.
You don't even see
we
it?
don't. When we launched the platform,
Yeah.
we couldn't even tell you how many transactions were done on it.
Oh,
so
really?
we had to come to our shareholders and say, hey, we'd like to be able to count the transactions. Are you okay with it?
Oh.
They said, we're going to think about it.
Okay. Hey, you have 80% market share now in North Sea. A year from now, what other markets have you basically conquered?
So the next market, which is very concrete for us because it's the beginning of next month, we're launching refined products trading in the ARA region in barges. Then our next goal is U.S. natural gas, on pipelines.
So next year you'll be doing $1 trillion, at least.
Well, we'll see. Yeah. We're trying to.
Come
go,
on, a little ambition.
Yeah.
We wanted.
The size of the market is $7 trillion. So until we reach that number, we haven't done our job.
Yeah, every year. Yes, okay. Hey, and how expensive? How do you charge for your services?
So we charge subscription fees where the traders
Per year or per trade or?
So per year, and every subscription fee gives you entitlement to a number of transactions.
Yeah.
And then beyond that, we charge per transaction.
Oh, you do. And how much is a transaction cost?
Oh, it depends. It depends on the nominal.
Is it a percentage or is it a?
No,
percentage?
it's a fixed fee. For example, for barges, that will be $45 per transaction.
Okay, and then the average trade. I mean, it's 0.0. It's really.
It's very small.
It's a total. It's a non-issue.
Yeah, it's a non-issue. I mean, that's not what the clients say. They say,
yeah.
you're
But I mean, in
expensive,
compared to the value of the business, it's absolutely nothing.
It is small very small as compared to the value of the nominal which is exchanged.
Make sure that you ask this guy more questions because this is really, I mean, this is the first almost $500 million and next year is $1 trillion. So this is really an interesting project. And you've seen it here. Blockchain is in production. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Then.